Bases dropped on a wall pass Wednesday here at Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here. John here, Jarrett there. And we got a lot of things to talk about this morning. Obviously, I wanted to keep the theme this week before we head into training camp about New Year's resolutions and themes and what you're looking for way too early predictions, those kinds of things. I wanted to get into that. Obviously, there's some stuff going on overseas. It's the return of Serie A this morning. Our friends at Paramount Plus are out of the blocks very, very quickly. Poppy Miller and the crew, apparently Matteo Bonetti, spent his time in the break finding a new haberdashery and a new tailor. So that made the desk this morning, along with the addition of a couple of beards. Will, it might be a brisket day, just anything warm, basically. And I'm going to apologize up front if the internet dies here at Office HD and we continue to roll through. But yeah, it was a long night on a bunch of different fronts when we have both youngins and pets that are not fans of thunder and lightning. You can hear it in my voice. You'll hear it in Jarrett's coming up in just a little bit. But yeah, there's some transactions in Major League Soccer to talk about. And it will get into the Greg Berhalter release on his social media platform yesterday. The response from US Soccer, will get into that as well. And hopefully we'll have a return of somebody familiar for the first time in 2023 coming up at 10 o'clock. So, Jarrett, I wanted to start this morning with opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, and the QR code right there over the middle of the screen for those of you watching live on Twitch. Don't forget to Kickoff Coffee CO on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15, and thanks to everybody who has so far, as you have found out what Kickoff Coffee is all about. And use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off of your purchase when it comes to everything going on at Kickoff Coffee. They in turn take 10%, roll it over into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at kickoffcoffeeco.com. A couple of names yesterday familiar to Atlanta United fans, Jarrett, both departing for new places, one on the active roster and one that was a part of the roster for a while. And we now have new locations and new mailing addresses for Alan Franco, official, and Eric Remedi this morning.
Yeah, we do. Sorry, giant sneeze right as I'm about to talk. It's always fun. That's how it works, man. Yeah, Eric Remedi headed back to Bonfield. The Bulldog of Bonfield goes home. Won a title in 2018 with Atlanta United. Went to San Jose and had a decent run. Felt like he never was really able to recover that late 2018 form he had. Mm-hmm. He would do it in flashes, but he wasn't consistently able to be that same guy. Like, he gave you his best moments, I think, in 2018, which was great because it led to a trophy. He was still a very good player. Did the job in San Jose, which was a weird job to do because San Jose is a weird place to play under Mateus Almeida.
Yes.
And now he goes back to Bonfield. And it might be a comfort thing. Even as we are 2 years on from, the world shutting down, then, stopping and starting reopenings after a pandemic. Again, these are still guys that, they might have had their immediate family with them, like their wives and kids, girlfriends, whatever it may be.
Right.
They still, it might have been tough for them to get over and see their extended families.
Yeah.
So, maybe for him, it's a thing where he might not fit into what's going to happen now in San Jose. Might not be a place for him. And it's a chance to go back to Bonfield where he was successful, where he had a good run, get him back in there and see if he can, kind of finish out what's going to be, I guess, the second half of his career, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But hey, man, he leaves the United States with a championship and, actually 3 trophies. If you count US Open Cup and the Campeones Cup. Mm-hmm. He leaves with 3 trophies. Damn good time. As far as Alan Franco goes, look, Alan Franco is 9s and 1s with fans to this day.
Yes, he is.
But I wish him the best of luck.
Yeah. And
not much to say about that one. We've known it's been coming. So
yeah. It's a 3-year deal with an option for a fourth, and 80% sale. Atlanta United keeps 20% of the pass. It's a good piece of business, and I think that's what we have to continue to remind folks here. It's a good piece of business.
It is a good piece of business, especially when it's not, in this case, not a loan. Like, he's not going to still exist in theory on your books. You are clearing him outright. If you're going to move Alan Franco, he's not going to play for you in 2023. Then sell him outright. So good piece of business by the front office.
Yep, and once again, you're looking at Miles. You're looking at Air Force One. You're looking at a center back that is probably going to be picked up here in the January window, leading into training camp. And you're looking at Noah Cobb, and it continues to remind folks once again of the confidence that Gonzalo Pineda has in having younger players around. Here's someone who can't do all the things that adults do in Noah Cobb, but he can sure as hell play Major League Soccer for Atlanta United and do it very, very well. And he's improved in a very short period of time. And so, it's just another example of the faith that the front office has in younger players. And Noah Cobb will get to continue to learn. And by, all indications, it'll be with the first team learning out of the blocks this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how much we're going to see of him with the first team. Like, he'll be a part of it. He's, it's past January 1. He's homegrown. I would expect, as we talked about this, like, I would expect him to be fourth on the pecking order, like not coming right out of the gates, being the guy who's first one off the bench necessarily, or if they play a 3-man back line, he's out there starting day one. Maybe he is. Gotten the sense that Gonzalo Pineda really likes him, which makes sense. He is absolutely stupid good. He is one of the 2 players during that Aberdeen-Atlanta scrimmage. If you watch the comments roll through, Aberdeen fans are like, y'all can send him over anytime you want. Y'all want to send him over on a loan? You do it right away. Because Aberdeen hasn't had a good defender in 2 years.
Yes.
They were more than happy to take him. And once they got over their initial laughing at the amount of fouls he was suffering, they were very much like, yeah, Johnny Bial could come too.
Yes.
No, you may not have Johnny Bial.
No, you cannot.
Our tiny son is not available.
No.
But yeah, Noah Cobb. I don't know how much we see of him this year. I think we see a good bit of him, but like, I also don't want to set that expectation. Like, hey man, you know how much George Campbell played last year? That's going to be Noah Cobb. I don't know that. Right. We don't know. Like, again, now you have a hole in your back line after the Alan Franco business. You got plenty of time. It's early January. You have time to go sign someone else.
Yeah.
We know another center back just signed within the league, one I didn't necessarily want here, coming off of another Achilles injury. You have Alexander Callens out there. I assume he's going to cost a mint, though.
Yeah.
But you've also racked up a lot of money. So if you don't go down that road, you should be able to bring in basically like a third center back, someone who can be that guy who can start a good bit of games.
Yep.
But you could also improve other places. And the window is still young. There's still time to make other moves in and out. So it's hard to speculate on it because, like, of all the people, like, it's hard to speculate on who's going to go where. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because in the first place, if you just talk to somebody in November and said, hey, somebody, like, one of these guys is going to move. Who do you think is going to move? Like, for a straight up sale. They might have wanted it to be Alan Franco, but they might not have expected it to be Alan Franco.
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, who you want and who you expect are sometimes 2 different people. You might not have expected Franco to move because that does leave a hole in the defense they're going to have to fill. Might it be one of the guys in the midfield? Maybe. We'll see. This will be interesting to watch the rumors. And as always, check your sources. Know your tier 1s and your tier 2 sources, especially dealing with South America. Brazil, it's trickier. We don't have as good of a read on the Brazilian sources. If you got somebody who does, lean on them, but also always take it with a grain of salt sometimes. And then of course, you've got your you've got your Argentine sources, which we've gone over. Merlot and Grova are still your S tiers.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep an eye out as you see the sourcing come out, and of course, you have your European ones as well. That
Yes.
everyone knows they're tried and true. Here we go.
Yes, tried and true. Here we goes. And when you get a here we go for Alan Franco, that was a unique experience on social media yesterday. When you get a here we go for Alan Franco. So yeah, and that's the thing is that the window's early. You're not going to sit there and make a rash decision. You're going to analyze what you're looking for. It's going to be conversations. You're going to see how things evolve through training camp. And if someone is, just stepping forward like nobody's business and wants to, grab the gig by the horns and then just go ahead and continue to ride past 6 seconds, then that's the way it's going to
longest 6 seconds of your life.
Yes, absolutely true.
And to Rack's point, with Campbell is young and developing, young players will make mistakes. Yeah, he was, and he is, and Montreal believes in him. They gave him that contract. I don't know if they expect him to finish out that contract, because I think George Campbell is, if he can get that positioning and mental side of it down, I think he would be slated for a guy to make that move to Europe. He's still very young. He is so physically raw and gifted. John, we've talked to him before, man. You stood next to him. The kid is, for his age, is incredibly put together physically. Yeah. Like, the physical side of his game will not be lacking if he can lock in that positioning and, being able to think fast enough to play it, which I think he can and will with more time. I don't know if they expect him to finish out that deal, but yeah, it's a situation where Noah Cobb and next man up. You got other guys, who are at college and who are in the system, who will be the next man up.
Yes.
But you also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you that you're going to have folks who are stepping up, and it is that part of training camp that is the part that we always, we sit there and we take out the magnifying glass and we're sitting there and we're looking at training camp every single day, and it's like, okay, who did well today? Who did well? Who did well yesterday? Who did well today? Can they continue to make it a third day in a row? Those kinds of things. Yeah, but that's what training camp's all about. It's about the optimism. It's about the analysis. It's about who's doing what where. But you have to take the entire training camp experience. You can't just sit there and say, okay, he had a good couple days and, you move forward. It's about the collective experience, and our folks grasping what the coaching staff is looking for stylistically and philosophically and those kinds of things. And so it is a full experience that we're looking at here. And yeah, the fact that it's early and, we're early in January, we're early in the window. We haven't hit training camp yet. That's at the end of the week when pitchers and catchers report, and training camp starts on the weekend. That it's just part of this process, and just everybody just know that it's day at a time. And I know that sounds cliche, and it's $1 in the jar for me, my first $1 in the jar for 2023. But it's part and parcel to the whole thing. It's just take your guys, learn with what you've got, bring in the folks that you think are going to fit in your system. But because it's January 4th and we haven't seen anything, and we'll get into teams that have done things, but doesn't mean that they're not working for a double negative. My mother, the English major, probably just screamed into midair, Jared.
Yeah. And to, some of the questions we got. Yeah. Jason will ask Park. It's one of my favorite questions. I actually asked Park if he's ready for training camp. One of my favorite things is to talk to former players like, hey, when training camp rolls around, how do you feel? You don't have to get out there and do, bleep tests, or you don't have to go do conditioning. You don't have to go through, the preseason medicals and all that. It's like I feel like it's that same feeling you get after you graduate high school, and that first fall rolls around after your graduation. Everyone else is getting up early to go to school, and you don't have to. Now, you might have college classes, you might be on a gap year, whatever it might be. But that first time where, I don't have to get up and suffer with you fools. This is going to be wonderful. I'm going to make myself some coffee. Yeah. I'm going to have a good day.
Yes.
Yeah, there is still hope about the idea of to Will's point about wanting to see the all in-house back line. You'll still keep developing in that direction. That's why you've been working on the academy since before the first team took the field, is you wanted to be able to build up the momentum where now you have Noah. You've had George Bello, who got sold on, which that's an entirely different conversation because
yes, it is.
Man,
yeah,
I don't think George is playing at Armenia BFL at all anymore. A team that might get relegated for a second straight season.
Mm-hmm.
But you got Caleb Wiley produced out of that. You got a Johnny Fortune now, who's a homegrown as well. Who I'm interested to see how much he features in the midfield, because Fortune's one where I thought he was really looking for consistency in 2022. He picked a hell of a time to have his most consistent game, I think, which was the AmFam Cup when he came on and just was literally everywhere. Like that was the performance that you saw sometimes with the twos. You're like, oh, he can. I don't know if he's a superstar, but this dude can play it. This dude can be a cog in a team.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's hard to be a superstar at that position, like at that 8, but you watch him, sometimes you're like, oh, this guy can be a cog. He's good enough. And then you've got, you've got 2 goalkeepers that are sitting there waiting that are both very young. Garces is on a homegrown fully now.
Yeah.
Vicente Reyes is 17, 18, 19? I forget.
I'll check it real quick, but keep discussing the depth that is on display in the development, sir.
Yeah, I mean, but this is what you're working toward, and building the academies out it's gonna be kind of like having that
19, by the way.
19. He still doesn't know what a Stretch Armstrong is, and that still bugged me that time. I meant to buy him one, just for fun, but this is I still think about it at times as like we think about like a farm system in baseball, or like you're recruiting in college football, if you want to bring it back to American sports, because you can have a really good academy. You're going to have classes that are just like a bunch of guys who are just bangers, who just, they hit at the right time. You just have those memorable classes. And then you're going to have some where like guys may not meet the expectations you have for them, but you're going to be getting to a point where you're hoping to churn out potentially 2+ homegrowns a year, guys who can be eligible for homegrowns. And you look at them and go, we could offer them a homegrown deal and they might be able to contribute to this team immediately. It's what you want to be able to build so that you don't have the lapses. And that's why you've been working on it, so that at this point, you've got guys who you can throw in there. It might only be 1 or 2 guys a year coming through like that. It's tough to have the entire team be homegrown at this point, and I think you would love to work for that. I would consider it a monumental achievement if they were able to pull a Dallas and field a starting 11 that was all homegrown players. You don't want to be LAG with entire years missed from the academy. LAG's got some talking to Jesus to do before they got some stuff to work through. You want half of our first 11 to be homegrown, some 1 or 2 on those vets and DPs. Yeah, like even however you want to play it, you want to have your academy churning guys out. And I think you're getting more and more of that. I want to see how the development continues with MLS Next Pro. Because we were seeing guys develop in that USL model. Does it improve now in MLS Next Pro? I want to see. Because you're going to be playing other academy kids. You're going to be playing other guys who are filling out those MLS Next Pro rosters. So it's not going to be, going and playing Tampa Bay, who is just a team full of, gritty, tough, and grim, 30-year-old veterans who are out there to win a trophy and bury you 6 feet under the ground.
Yeah.
We'll see. I do miss George as well. Coco says he's still not prepared to talk sanely about Bella's transfer. I don't think any of us are.
No.
A lot to unfold with that. I was always under the impression that was what he wanted, was the Bielefeld move.
Yep.
I have to go back and check. I was under the impression that was like he wanted to go there and they tried to do right by him. They got as much money as they could out of Bielefeld. And coach leaves. It just hasn't fit. Chris Mueller had the same thing happen when he went to Hibernian before he came back to Chicago. You go to a place, coach wants you, coach gets fired. Well, you don't fit what the new coach wants. Whoopsies. It's a really tough situation, and it can be tough to deal with. But that one, I don't know. I don't know when we'll be ready to talk about that one, because I'm wondering if George eventually makes a move out of Bielefeld, gets a chance to kind of reset himself and rebuild things and kind of restart his momentum. Because George Bello, when he left, he was kind of on that fringe for the U.S. national team at left back behind. He was fighting in the scrum with guys like Sam Vines. Now, no, it's not that right now. And I don't know what it takes for Bello to recapture that, but yeah, it feels like right now, your current left back is closer to that.
It was Cercle Bruges, and allegedly a $3.75 million deal had been accepted. But Fabrizio Romano reported at the time Bello did not agree to personal terms with Cercle Bruges, and he wasn't interested in a move to Belgium. Then it was Bielefeld that came to the table, and that was where it ended up heading, was Arminia Bielefeld. And Bielefeld, I'm going to go ahead and take a peek because we know that they were struggling. And Bundesliga B right now,
rumor has it 1 to 2 EFL championship clubs are looking at Bello. I mean, that'd be fine, man. Put him in championship, put him in League One, whatever it might be, and not necessarily like, oh, he's only a League One quality player. No, man, like put him there, put him in championship, put him in a system that works for him, so he can get some confidence, get some playing time, and see what he's got. Because I do hate it for him, because he took that move, everything just kind of went wrong. I don't think you want that for anybody.
No. Bielefeld right now is in the relegation playoff spot in Bundesliga B, and they are a part of this group that is basically 10 through 18 is separated by 4 points right now in Bundesliga B. And Bielefeld is 16th out of 18th, and they are only 16th out of 18th because of goal difference. 17 points. St. Pauli's at a -2. Arminia Bielefeld's at a -5. Magdeburg is at -13. Sandhausen, which sounds like a character on AEW, is last at 16 points right now in Bundesliga B. So, Arminia Bielefeld staring at a second consecutive relegation at basically the halfway point of the season as they get ready. And much like Nick says, when you're going from Serie B to Serie C, which is I think what he describes it as a knife fight, where Serie B is bad enough, but Serie C is a knife fight every match. You'd be going to the 3 Liga if you get relegated again, and then you're really stretching relevancy and solvency at that point. You go from
at that point, you're also like everything must go. All sales are final.
Yes,
like you were opening Galleria Furniture up, and you were telling them to ask for Wolfman.
Yes, yeah,
because everybody is going to be on the market if that happens, because you're going to have to make some money.
We've been 9 o'clock about a half hour ago, just so folks know. Keep an eye on the USL Championship today. The league, through their social media, is saying that there's a big announcement coming later today with a couple of emojis that I would have difficulty placing into a proper sentence context. They're just
I'm going to find them.
So it's a
USL Championship, you say?
Yeah, at USL Championship. There's a big announcement coming later today, and there's eyes.
Those are just eyes in a house.
Yes, eyes in a house. So I don't know what the context of that is, but stay tuned. USL Championship. So, Rack, so we got a cryptic Darren-like tweet from USL Championship this morning. And keep an eye on that. But, it was a deal at Cercle Bruges for 3.75. Didn't happen. Didn't agree to personal terms. Went to Arminia Bielefeld, and Bielefeld has fallen off the map. And George Bello hopefully can get his career kick-started, in the championships or in the championship or league.
Hell, man, wherever it is, like be it England, put him in Scotland, I don't care. Put him in Belgium. It'd be funny if he ended up in Belgium and like did well in Belgium. Bello goes to Royal Antwerp or something. I don't know.
Yes, goes into the Jupiler League while we're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens, man, it'll just be. I hope he gets a place to play because like you don't wish that on your worst enemy, like your biggest rival's biggest star. Like, I don't want like Paxton Aronson who made that move to Europe. I don't want him to. I think he's at Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yep, he showed up yesterday, I believe, shaking hands.
Yeah, like you want him to be happy, want him to thrive. Like at the end of the day, these are kids. These are people who were younger than we were, when we were hitting that level of maturity. In a lot of cases, getting a chance to go play their, to apply their trade and play a game as their dream career, and you don't want it to go wrong for them. It's not fun for anybody at that point. So yeah, hopefully Georgie can either Bielefeld either somehow turns around there, or he gets a chance to go somewhere where he can figure it out and make something positive out of it and still have a good career.
Yeah. That's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee.
33 minutes later.
Yes. Well, but if we go on a roll, it's a Wall Pass Wednesday. I'm not going to stop it. There's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. KickoffCoffeeCO.com, Kickoff Coffee CO, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15, and you get 15% off of your purchase, everything that you purchase at Kickoff Coffee. Thanks to everybody who has been helping out with Kickoff Coffee so far, because they in turn take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and KickoffCoffeeCO.com. Now, all right. So, yeah, we've got to get into this. I'm not a fan of the story. There's apparently...
I don't have enough alcohol for this.
No, and apparently, allegedly, there's going to be more information coming out today, and that came from a source based out west who has over 34,000 followers, not in the journalistic sense, but in the sport of soccer. So we'll keep an eye on any follow-ups. But for those of you who missed it, yesterday, statement issued. US Soccer says it's investigating an allegation against Greg Berhalter. Technically, Berhalter, his contract expired 3 days ago. Also investigating behavior, and this is from our friends at Soccer America. This is their wording. Investigating behavior by individuals towards Federation staff based on information that has emerged since the investigation began. Statement followed shortly after a tweet from Berhalter in which he detailed an incident when he was a freshman at the University of North Carolina in 1991 involving his then girlfriend and now wife of 25 years, Rosalind Santana. Then Greg had a statement that was posted to it is his Twitter account. It's just rarely used. He's not a big Twitter guy, and you can't really blame him just on general principle. Berhalter said an unnamed third party contacted the U.S. Soccer Federation during the World Cup with information about the incident to, quote, take me down, end quote, with the intention to, quote, bring about the end of my relationship with the USSF, end quote. Berhalter's contract expired Saturday, the last day of 2022. U.S. Soccer stated it learned of the allegation December 11, immediately hired Alston and Bird LLP to conduct an independent investigation into the matter. That investigation is ongoing, resulted, according to the Fed, in learning, quote, about potential inappropriate behavior towards multiple members of our staff by individuals outside of our organization, end quote. In the tweet signed by Greg and Rosalind on a Twitter account, said after a night of drinking at a bar, got into a heated argument with Rosalind, kicked her in the legs. Quote, in the statement, he says, there are zero excuses for my actions that night. It was a shameful moment and one that I regret to this day, end quote. Berhalter said he apologized and said Rosalind, who started on the 91 UNC women's team, wanted nothing to do with him, told his family and friends about the incident. Rosalind did with her family and friends, took responsibility for his actions, voluntarily sought counseling, a decision he said that was one of the most valuable he's ever made. Then again, after 7 months of being apart, Rosalind called him, according to Berhalter, asked to speak in person, discussed how we had grown, decided to rebuild their relationship. They've been to the Netherlands, England, Germany as a player, Sweden as a coach. And quoting Berhalter again from his statement, The lessons learned from that night over 3 decades ago became the foundation for a loving, devoted, supportive relationship, which we honored and celebrated with our 25th wedding anniversary this past weekend. US Soccer stated it appreciated, quote, Greg and Rosalind coming forward to speak openly about this incident. Consistent with our commitment to transparency, we will share the results of the investigation publicly when it is complete. U.S. Soccer condemns violence of any kind and takes such allegations very seriously. So Tuesday, U.S. Soccer stated with the national team review Berhalter investigation ongoing, it'll announce who will lead the January camp in the coming days, probably going to be an assistant coach that will work through all of that. So that's what we know. And, with the notion that U.S. Soccer is going to be presenting more information later today, we will see where it goes. And I know that a lot of you are trying to put one and one together, and I will leave that to the Twitch pitch. And theories you guys can have all the theories that you want and trying to piece together information. Obviously, we have our own thoughts on the matter and who it could be and all these kinds of things, but that's not the business that we're in. You guys on the Twitch pitch, you can, like you said, you guys can say whatever you want to say about it. But right now we're just going to go with the information that's on hand. The 2-page statement from Greg Berhalter, the response from the U.S. Soccer Federation, and when there is more information out there that is being placed by either party or Alston and Bird or someone in authority, then we will continue to move forward with the story. So conjecture is not something that we're going to get into, especially with something involving all of this stuff. So that's the information that we know. The Greg Berhalter Twitter statement, the response from the U.S. Soccer Federation, and the notion from individuals out west that there's going to be more information today is evidenced, I think, in paragraph 2 of the U.S. Soccer Federation statement that was put out yesterday. So that's where we are. That's what we know. And when we know more, obviously we'll talk about it. But right now, discretion being the better part and being journalists about it, that's where we're going to stay. You guys can sit there and sit there and go. And there have been folks who've been trying to put the dots together, and that's on them. You guys want to put dots together on social media, and I've seen folks who've been trying to sit there and say, well, so and so is this and this and this and this and this, and the relationship is here, and here. That's cool. You can do that all you want. And you can try to sit there and say, okay, well, it's this person, or I think it's this person. We don't know what we don't know. We know what we know. And those are basically the back-to-back sentences that we try to live with here is we don't know what we don't know. We know what we know. What we know is what Greg Berhalter said on his Twitter account. What we know is what the U.S. Soccer Federation came out yesterday and said, and what we're fairly certain. And like I said, we'll work on that when we know more. Don't know, Rack. Honestly, don't know. To be clear, are there allegations that something has transpired related to his coaching or his team treatment, etc.? No. Jared, I can't think of anything. And nothing.
Wait, what are we asking?
It's Rack. To be clear, are there allegations that something has transpired related to his coaching or his team treatment?
Not that I've seen, like, the whole thing, like, unless he's trying to get way out in front of it,
yeah,
and to minimize something else potentially coming out. It looks like it's a matter of, something that happened when he was 18, which is not an acceptable action that he took.
No, not at all.
Based on his telling of the situation, it's not an acceptable action. It sounds like he took the appropriate reconciliation steps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much more complicated it is than that, because we are hearing one side of the story on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole thing is just a mess. Like, U.S. soccer is slipping into just being a circus and being a joke.
Yeah.
Because of this. Because if you have somebody trying to drop this news as a way to get him to make sure he is not, selected as the next coach,
right?
Like, okay, any federation you make fun of for being dysfunctional and chaotic, that's you, U.S. Soccer.
Yeah.
You look in the mirror. And yeah, I get it. Like the air of nepotism that hangs over his initial hire is very strong and very unnecessary. The way you went about it all was unnecessary. He has been successful. Defeated Mexico a couple times. Took some hardware away from them as well. Stuck a thorn in their paw.
Mm-hmm.
Got out of the group stages of the World Cup, which in my opinion should be the bare minimum.
Yes.
And then lost to a Dutch team with individual mistakes from guys who you don't expect to make those individual mistakes. Could he have done better? Probably. But at this point, like if you're pulling stories from this long ago, I mean, it just seems like you're doing everything you can, looking for every reason you can to get him knocked out of there, and it just looks so childish. Now, I've seen a couple people have mentioned it. I've seen the links to Reyna.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We haven't heard or seen anything conclusive, and I don't want to push those personally.
Nope.
Because Gio Reyna's a kid. Based on some of the stuff we saw it and heard, and the last leaks that came out when he did the interview in, I guess, when was it, like in the Netherlands or Geneva or Switzerland, wherever the hell he gave that interview or gave that symposium. Based on that, it sound like Reyna powdered a bit, and then everyone talked to him, and he got back on the right. He got back on the horse and was fine and was able to contribute. And it sounded like something that was an issue that they discussed, the team's leaders discussed with him and worked through. He's still just a kid, and I don't want to levy allegations against a kid with literally zero standing. Sure as hell don't want to do them against an adult, but even more so, I don't want to do them against a kid who, may have had issues with them and who worked through those and was able to contribute with the team and has a very bright future ahead of him.
Yeah.
I don't want to label baseless accusations against that kid.
Mm-mm.
That's not necessary. It's also, not only is it not necessary, it's incredibly irresponsible and flies in the face of the idea of ethics to just lob like accusations like that.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing, like this thing feels like, and I know I've seen the stuff too about like this is going to get hairier today, and not his accusations. I should say accusations. His offenses from when he was a kid, but the whole blackmailing part of it, which is going to be very interesting because part of blackmailing people is the idea of, oh, you don't want this to get out. And then Greg Berhalter drops, a 2-page letter basically saying, hey, here's what they blackmailed me about. It takes some of the power away from that.
Correct. It does. You're getting out in front of it and you're sitting there and it's like, oh, okay.
And sometimes you get out in front of stuff, you're doing it to try and minimize it, and you're trying to minimize something that is legitimately should be talked about. This one's complicated, man. Because there's nothing forgivable about what he did, getting drunk and assaulting somebody.
Yeah.
It's domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
If he chose to work through that and she reached out to him and chose to discuss it with him and eventually forgive him, that is between them. It does not excuse what he did. That should never be forgotten, and I'm sure it won't be within that relationship. But if they've gone 25 years of marriage,
correct,
it's something they worked through. And damn, it's just like what I can't get over, like that is its own separate conversation. But the fact, like, if that's what you're firing off to getting fired, I mean, it's just such a childish thing to like, hey, we're gonna pull up this old stuff to get this guy to make sure he doesn't get hired again. I'm like, I don't want him hired again because I don't want to coach for a second cycle.
Right.
It's just so the whole thing has been so weird, and a lot of it has been so pathetic related to Greg Berhalter from US Soccer Twitter, especially. Like, I get you don't like him. I get it. The air of nepotism was strong there. It was wildly unnecessary. US Soccer, in a sense, did kind of set him up to be, in the firing squad constantly when they did that.
Correct.
As far as his performance, it's been fine. There are little nitpicks where I had issues with some stuff, but overall, you could have done a lot worse than what you got out of Greg Berhalter as manager of the U.S. national team. But now you got people doing this, like, as if you're not trying to be a better and more, I guess, mature federation.
Yeah.
Come the hell on. Like, and I get it's like the U.S. Soccer is not responsible for this directly. They're not the ones. I hope they're not the ones that leaked this out. All of this is just so stupid,
mm-hmm.
and it is so childish, and it is so like second-rate, second-world federation nonsense. Congratulations, you're a bunch of middle schoolers again.
Yeah, and that's basically the way that a lot of folks are looking at it. It's a middle school fight. I know you are, but what am I? And then you sit there and you're like, dragging folks down into a conversation. But then whomever this individual is or individuals, I mean, what does that say about you that you would want to go into the gutter and do something like that? And so so that's why I prefaced everything by saying that what we try to do is
deranged is the nicest word I've ever seen used for U.S. Soccer Twitter burn.
Yeah.
Deranged is the nicest way I've ever seen it described. Incredibly toxic and unstable and needing to be condemned and quarantined is another way.
Yeah.
Because you get some people on there. You go look in the replies of people covering U.S. soccer. It's to take a line from Ryan Howard. Even if the internet, it's pretty shocking. The stuff that people say to other people about a sport, about a damn sport,
mm-hmm.
is a lot. It's something else, man.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to phrase it. But yeah, obviously, as we get more information on this, we'll continue to talk about it. But like I said, conjecture is not something. And Kim Kardashian's ex-husband would be considered sane on U.S. Men's National Team Twitter. So when we know more, obviously we'll talk about it. So we're just going to go with what we know. And what we know is the Berhalter statement, the Soccer Fed response, and what we're linking together about the possibility of more information coming out later today. So we'll keep an eye on all. Yeah.
In the middle of my rant, from Felipe Cardenas. Atlanta United winger Marcelino Moreno is close to finalizing a loan move to Brazilian side Coritiba.
Okay.
For MLS source. This is one of several roster moves that are in progress in Atlanta.
Okay.
From Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic.
Yes. All right. So let's check and see where Curitiba currently is in all of their activities.
Don't ask me why I tried to call them Cordoba.
Yeah.
I don't know why my man. I was up multiple times as a kid. My brain doesn't work right now. Like it is on the struggle bus.
Yeah. No, hey, I'm right there with you, brother. So Curitiba, let's check in and do a Curitiba quick fact-finding mission here and see where they are when it comes to the sport that we're all paying attention to here on a daily basis. So Curitiba Football Club, Coxa Branca or Coxa from Curitiba. Let's see, club profile soccer. Like I said, I'm trying to find positions and information right now as to where they are position-wise. And in the Paranaense, they are part of the Paranaense, and we're waiting for the next season in the Paranaense. So we'll see what happens there. 20 trophies in the Paranaense history, 1 in Serie A, 1 in Serie B. So 23 trophies. And so let's see. Paranaense. All right. So the next match for them is on the 15th of January in the Paranaense, and then that's when their Paranaense competition continues in earnest. And so that's where, with Paranaense, that's where they are. So if Curitiba, right now founded 1909, playing a stadium that's got 45,500 in Curitiba, Paraná. And so that's where we are with Curitiba. So we'll keep an eye on Curitiba and Marcelino Moreno working our way forward. That information coming out in short order. But once again, that's what January is all about. And you know, so we'll see if there's anything there with one more time, Jarrett, what was the information? Was it just that one-liner that the conversations are going with Curitiba, or that was it loan purchase? Was there any detail?
Close to finalizing a loan move. Does not say anything about a purchase agreement. I'm wondering if that would be discussed down the road. I wonder if it'd be like a loan with a purchase requirement.
Yeah.
Look, man, we've gone over this before. Money in South America is a fluid thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is no telling how much someone has to spend.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, because I had been on the boat of like, he was the guy I thought, the next guy I thought, the big guy who could be that guy to make a move.
Right.
I thought it'd be in the league, honestly, but
yeah,
I'd love to see him in a place like Colorado or RSL. One of those clubs that could use like a guy to be on the ball who could make stuff happen. Moreno had a weird tenure here, though. He came in during the pandemic to a team that was pretty damn broken.
Mm-hmm.
Had some really good moments. Gave us some really good moments. That doesn't work with Thiago Almada on the field with him right now.
Okay.
Those chess pieces don't live together.
No.
So if this is what's going down, then hopefully I hope he is happy, and I hope he does well, because he's always come across like a really nice dude.
Mm-hmm.
He got put into a really weird situation here. If this loan move does happen, and I don't mean this, and when I say if this loan move, it's not to question anyone like Felipe's credibility. It is to say that until the paperwork is signed, you're always waiting for the paperwork to get signed. So yeah, I think Felipe's got it right. This isn't a question of his credibility. This is hey, until the paperwork is signed, and unless a Carlos Correa happens, it's going down. But until the until they sign on the line that is dotted, John.
Yes.
Always be closing.
A, always be, B, C, closing, always be closing. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted.
Yes, thank you. Until that is officially done, we just we talk about it in the it is going to happen until the ink is dry, because loans are weird.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's a Gogo's point. Like I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with I don't know what the deal is with the Barco's loan to River. I think there's another year on it, but after that, I'm not sure what the plan is there.
But remember, finance.
We'll see.
But remember, finances are a larger picture. Don't look at the financing on a player by player basis, because yes, in the grand scheme of things, you might take a loss on one player, but then you get a massive plus on another player. So don't look at individual players and go, well, we lost a lot on that transaction. But at the same time, you could look at somebody else and you made a plus on another transaction. You did a good piece of business with Alan Franco. So it's taking, it's taking the collective expenditures and looking at them across the line. Don't look at the profit and or loss involving an individual player and have that as just like a one-off. And yet look at the collective and see how Atlanta United is working with the dollars that are across the board. So that's how I look at it anyway. So just don't take individual expenditures on an outbound and sit there and go, okay, well, overall loss, overall win, whatever. Just look at all of them in the group. And
you win some, you lose some when it comes to like, do you make money on those players? Sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them. And sometimes you win them when you don't expect them. Like, you made money on Pity Martinez selling him to the Middle East. You didn't expect to do that after everything that was going on here.
Yeah. One of the best deals in the history of Major League Soccer. You did not anticipate that.
Very much unexpected. And I think anywhere else in the world, you would not have made money on that deal. Like, he's going anywhere else, you're losing money on that deal. That was just really weird.
Mm-hmm. It was. And Robot Jarrett, of course, as Jarrett turns into
it is what it is. Well, I was going to wait to see if anything else breaks because they like to break stuff on us at the top of the hour.
Yeah, they do. So we'll filibuster for a couple of minutes here, and so we'll see what's been going on. But once again, just remember, it's January. There's a lot going on. Before you go, I wanted to get into a couple of MLS transactions that we can talk about here quickly.
I would be insulted if you didn't.
Latif Blessing is one of them. And so Latif Blessing is headed east, and it appears Aaron Long is close to signing with LAFC. So intrigue from LAFC, according to Kyle Bonagura.
I want to see what Aaron Long's got in the tank.
Yes.
He had his Achilles go on him. I don't know if he's the same guy speed-wise, and you need that speed. Because I think we saw it in the lead up to the World Cup of he doesn't have the wheels he did. I'll be interested to see how that works for them and what they want to do with him. Latif Blessing, I really like that move. I think Latif Blessing could have been an upgrade in a lot of places. I know I saw at least one person out of New England argue that that was a matter of like we could have kept guys and not gotten Latif Blessing and saved some money, but I really like Latif Blessing. I'm a big fan of what he does, and the shop that he routinely attempts to wreck when he is playing the game. Yeah, it is what it is. But to Jason's point, we overpaid for Barcos, zero doubt about that at this point. But hindsight's 2020 and all. You know what, man? If you'd have told me that when he was winning a title in Independiente, I'd have said you were crazy, though. And maybe we were all punch drunk on it because the man played in a 2-leg final and had more impact than Vinicius Jr. did in that final.
Mm-hmm.
It was a weird time, and we thought he was going to be that guy.
Yeah,
and
you're also
hasn't been.
You're also dealing with pandemic financing too.
Yeah, and at this point, you're gonna lose money on it ultimately because you're not gonna get back what you spent on him. Like, pandemic financing, be damned, you're not gonna get back what you spent on him. No. But you take risks like that. Sometimes they pay off in the form of a Miguel Almiron or a Pity Martinez, which kind of got bailed out by Al Nasser. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you're trying to capture these guys in moments of greatness. And I would imagine, unless something really weird happens, you were going to win again with Thiago Almada in short order. I know some people have tapped in for like MLS MVP. I don't think so, because I don't think you last past the summer here. Okay. I think someone's gonna offer you a stupid amount of money for him at some point.
Yeah, no question about that.
Yeah, so that one will be a win. Yeah, I mean, but to Bernd's point about the sunk cost. Yeah, if you overpaid for a player and it's not working, they're not fitting, I'm all for hey, you want to take the financial loss and get them out of here? Go for it. I would rather you do that than just keep them here and just ride it out. Like, if it's not working, bite the bullet. Yeah. Just get them out and let them move on. Let them go somewhere where they can be successful elsewhere and where they might be in a happier place elsewhere. And then you can move on with a different next step in your process.
And we'd like to welcome back for the first time in 2023, Dylan Butler. What's the mug this morning, Dylan?
Hang on. Just get it off the heater there. Might not be a fan favorite in the Atlanta area. We'll go to Yankees mug.
Okay, so Jared is here.
What's up, Jared?
And we've been discussing MLS-y kinds of things. We got into the
literally just hanging on by the edge of the saddle as all of this news is breaking constantly.
Yeah. The Felipe Cardenas bolo about Marcelino Moreno possibly heading to Curitiba, and keeping an eye on that. And we got into the discussion about Latif Blessing heading to New England and the possibility of Aaron Long to LAFC. When you see Latif Blessing heading east to help out Bruce Arena and Aaron Long heading west to go with the champs, when you look at those two deals, I know they're not blended together, but in their mutual exclusivity, what do you think?
I think a huge move for LAFC. I'm not as sold of Blessing to New England being a big move, because they still have other issues to work out, right? Like they have. I mean, where. I guess the thing is, where will he fit? Is he going to be go back to the wing where he played originally? He got turned into a little bit of a do-it-all midfielder. Is he in that mix there in the midfield, joining Polster and Heel? Not sure, right? So I think they still have other big needs and concerns. The biggest of all is kind of having two forwards who can't play in the field at the same time, and neither are wingers, right? So does Bruce Arena go with a formation change? There are a lot of ton of questions there for them. So the more concrete is Long to LAFC, I think is a great move. I think he's gonna be plugged in. Be plugged in as a starter right away. Clearly, it's I think it's an indictment certainly on the Red Bulls, who are never in the mix to seemingly re-sign a guy, right? Like here was a guy who was a captain, was obviously in the national team, or is on the national team. He's 30 years old, right? So there's still a good amount of soccer left in him, but that's not the Red Bulls way. So big move for LAFC. Seattle were also rumored to have been in that mix. Would have been a great move for them as well. So I think big addition for LAFC, and I think probably a plus for New England, but there again, still work to do there.
All right, Jarrett, go ahead and hit it, because the news did come across.
Yeah, we just actually got this in our inbox. Atlanta United and Emerson Heineman have agreed to mutually terminate the contract. So Emerson Heineman back on the market. One of the bodies in Atlanta's midfield is now gone. Dylan, I don't know how you felt about Heineman. I know he's had an interesting career coming out of the academy in Dallas. Went to Europe, played really well in Scotland for Rangers, and never really seemed to latch on at Bournemouth. And then I thought he had some good moments here, but I've argued for the last year that you can't make the roster when you're on a training table, and that's where he's been.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think you said it perfectly, right? When he's been healthy and he's been on the field, he's been productive, right? He's been a quality part of that midfield, but those times, unfortunately, have been few and far between. So I think a good move, obviously, for Atlanta. We'll see now where Hyman ends up, but there's a lot of pieces there in Atlanta. It's I'm sure you guys have been speaking about it too, but I think there'll be a flurry of moves. There's a lot of players who have similar attributes, maybe, right? Like you need some different players as well, and obviously Garth Lagaway coming in, and the whole Joseph thing. There's a lot of intrigue around Atlanta United as this offseason, or as this preseason is about to begin.
Yeah, it's definitely turning into moving day, as some folks are saying on the Twitch pitch this morning. But now that we're in January, and right soccer for good OG, Hyman hasn't really been quite right since COVID, since he tested positive. And other moves that we have seen, Bear to Seattle was one that I wanted to get in to discussion with you about, because Seattle has never been afraid to try to bring in the deal that they think will shake the foundations, and they did it with Lagerwey and Weibel bringing in Albert Rusnak, and now it's Craig's first signature move in bringing in Bear to Seattle.
So what we just said about Hyman, you can plug and play here with Bear, right? Like, when he's healthy, he's been very, very good, right? He's been a quality striker in MLS. Unfortunately, there were major questions about if he would be the same productive forward as he was before the ACL injury, right? So I think, and also, is he a regular starter? He won't be, right? In Seattle, obviously, you've got Rui Diaz there. So I think they splashed a lot of cash to get a backup, but considering also Rui Diaz's injury concerns, you've got a guy who will probably play half the games this year, right? Or I'm sorry, should start half the games this year. So,
and the 7,000 games that they have on their schedule to start in Morocco.
Exactly. So, I think a huge move for Seattle. I think it's great. I think when you can get a guy like Aber as a backup to Rui Diaz, that's solid. I mean, certainly an upgrade. No disrespect to the Dancing Bear, right? But certainly an upgrade from Will Bruin in that depth chart. So big for them. And NYCFC is another kind of almost turning into the most interesting team coming into a preseason, right along with like CF Montreal. We just mentioned Atlanta, but man, right? Like, so many pieces gone from an MLS Cup winning team. And you've got to think, well, clearly there's going to be some incoming pieces. And there's still big pieces that have left to be signed. Sean Johnson, Alex Collins are both free agents, right? So very, very interesting for the citizens, no doubt.
No doubt. And another piece of news for Atlanta United, SK Beveren announces Tyler Wolff is going to be recalled early from his loan. He appeared 7 times for the Belgian side this fall. And so it's like, okay, I feel like everybody's finally back from vacation. You're back from your vacation for the first time, and I give you all the credit. I'll just go ahead and I'll say it right now. With all of these moves happening here in the 10 o'clock hour, I'm just going to give you all the credit in the world, Dylan, about everything that's been going on.
Thank you.
What other moves while you were on vacation and we were all trying to figure out what holiday gifts we needed to buy folks at the last minute? What other plot lines and player moves kind of raised your the Dylan Butler eyebrow as we head into moving day here?
The people's eyebrow.
It is the soccer people's eyebrow with Dylan Butler.
I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, you got Brad Smith going to Houston. You've got the idea of, I think Mateus Klick is being mentioned at DC United. Wayne Rooney, as a matter of fact, is now odds-on favorite to take over at Everton when they finally get rid of Frank Lampard. It's like all of these moving pieces and little things that are happening, but it's individual teams that are doing things. It's not just one team that's making big splashes. You've got a lot of teams who aren't wasting any time. And like in the case of Houston, they can't afford to waste any time because of Ben Olsen and new ownership and all these kinds of things. And they've got to get help for Ache and Ferreira up top. I mean, you've got a lot of teams that aren't wasting any time here, I guess, because it's almost FOMO. It's almost fear of missing out where, oh my God, we better address something before somebody else does. It seems like everybody's jumping in early in January. There may not be a whole lot of news as we get to training camp and exhibition matches at the end of the month.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's crazy, Dylan, and I give you all the credit.
Flurry of moves, certainly a lot of outgoing, like Houston and DC. I mean, they've almost tried to go the Miami way, right? Of just like offloading half their rosters.
Oh, you're the Chris Henderson Miami and not the previous Miami. Okay, just checking. Wait a minute. I was waiting for where you were going. It's like the offloading from that. Yeah, not having the 9DP route. No.
And then the coaching, the coaching carousel is another one. Like Lasada, I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No.
To Montreal, which again adds additional intrigue there with Montreal. They lose so many pieces, potentially can continue to lose more. And now obviously a new coach there. Yeah, I mean, man, as camps are just about to open, this could arguably be one of the most intriguing preseasons, right? Like usually like preseason is like, who cares? Let's get to the season already, right? But between the coaches and the incoming and the outgoing players, still big free agents on the table. This is really interesting, right? Like, yeah, I mean,
okay.
Long was obviously the biggest one, I think, to this point, but there was no question he was moving. It was just a question of where, right? So, who would land him? And for him, I mean, makes a ton of sense, right? Like, you go to the defending champions, a team
you're younger than Chiellini.
Most are. You there's playing time to be had there. You're going to a team that's going to compete on multiple levels. It's a great stadium. Obviously, it's a city. He's a Southern California guy, so it ticks all the boxes for him. Red Bulls are a team, conversely, now that are really quiet. There's talk of Duncan coming back, but he was underwhelming when he returned from his loan, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Red Bulls, in a preseason and an off season where there's been so much noise, they've again been very quiet.
Well, and the questions that I would have with Aaron Long, one, price point. And I don't think that LAFC has ever shied away from a price point because Aaron Long ain't going to come cheap. And two, the idea of recovering from an Achilles injury. And, is Aaron Long the same that he was? Is he back to the 100% of Aaron Long before the procedure? And I think that I think those are probably the two questions that anybody has where Aaron Long is concerned, and you can apply that to national team duty if you want. But since specifically we're talking about LAFC here, it's okay. We see Aaron Long, and we're going to grab him, and it almost seems like, okay, we're going to grab him so nobody else does, and then we'll figure it out. We'll figure the details out later. Price point, fine. We'll figure out where he fits, when we get into training camp,
Yeah, I thought he was very good for Red Bulls last year, coming back from that Achilles. There were obviously a couple of flubs here and there, and ultimately I think it cost him minutes national team wise. But but how much of that is Achilles versus he's, again, not that it's ancient certainly for a center back, but he's 30, right? And he's not the guy who won Defender of the Year a few years back, right? So I don't think he's peak Aaron Long when West Ham was calling a couple times and the Red Bulls declined those offers. but he's still obviously one of the elite center backs in MLS. And I think when you have an opportunity to get that guy, you get him, right? I think there was a handful of teams, I mean, think about the teams that were right in again, LAFC and Seattle were in the mix for him. Two teams that splash the cash and have ambitions, right? So I think that that speaks volumes there. It would have been really interesting if you would. Can you imagine if he went across to NYCFC? How yeah, that would have been interesting.
Another team not afraid to splash the cash. You mentioned ambition, and this is something else that I wanted to get into with you this morning. Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com and OSDB Sports visiting for his Wednesdays with Dylan for the first time in 2023. Did you see the article out of Kansas City about how Sporting tried to court Cristiano Ronaldo?
Yeah.
What did you think about? And let's start at 30,000 feet on this one. What did you think about the idea? Outside of the fact that I'm sure a lot of us in the back of our head were waiting for that moment when Cristiano Ronaldo was not going to play against Union Omaha in a US Open Cup match, and Peter Vermes was going to have one of those looks that he gives from time to time. But from 30,000 feet, first and foremost, before we dive into it fully, what did you think about the idea about Sporting Kansas City chasing after Cristiano Ronaldo?
A weird one. For sure, for multiple reasons. One, from a team perspective, it's not quite. It's certainly a departure from what the player profile that Sporting has gone after, right? So now, in that sense, I would applaud them because if everything that we read is true, and I've got you've got multiple people, not just the Kansas City Star, Taylor Twellman, Tom Boger, so. Mm-hmm. when you hear it from multiple people, the same storyline, I think this one is true. So certainly departure player perspective wise, but I applaud them for their, again, using the word of the day, I guess, ambition. But it doesn't, think about what does a player have to do under Peter Vermes? Mm-hmm. They've got to run their off, right? Yep. Uh-huh. And you've got to defend.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Yes.
I don't see that from Ronaldo. And if he doesn't do it for Portugal, if he doesn't do it for Manchester United, why on a Wednesday night is he going to do it for Sporting Kansas City? Mm-hmm. Now, from a Ronaldo standpoint, we hear the stories that so much. It was what was the quote? It was exactly what he was looking for, or something to that effect. Yes. Now, I've been to Sporting. I've been to the area. Stadium wise, training facility wise, awesome, right? Really, really good. When I stayed in Kansas City, obviously I stayed in the other Kansas City. I wasn't in Kansas City, Kansas, where the stadium is. Hey, I'm a big fan of barbecue, right? So great barbecue there. But I don't see it fitting Ronaldo's lifestyle.
Right.
Right. Is he this is a guy who he was in Turin, he was in Manchester. So that struck me as a surprise. It wasn't I remember back when Michael Owen made a move to Newcastle, right? He was still living in Liverpool, and he would helicopter in every day for training. I don't see anywhere around Kansas City that Ronaldo. It's not like he would go to live in Vegas, right? and take the jet in for training in the morning. So from the technical side of what Vermes wants to do, and from the lifestyle side of what I would suspect Ronaldo would hope for, those didn't make sense. But fun story though, for sure.
But what I wanted to get the opinion now on the both of you, now that Jared has returned from the real world and is hanging back out with us here in hour number 2.
Everything keeps breaking. What do you want from me?
I know.
People keep breaking news all around the damn league.
I know.
Tell them to calm down.
I know. Well, actually, we like it when they break news during the show for a change, because traditionally the news is broken about 11:05 when we're off the air. But, Jarrett, we're talking about the Cristiano Ronaldo courtship from Sporting Kansas City and CR37's group. And Dylan, what I wanted to ask as a follow-up is, I think what this does is it sets up Major League Soccer well as someone who is available for courtship. They're more than happy to come with the corsage, or whether it fits on the wrist or wherever it fits for the girl, for those stars that are 28 to 32, maybe an Olivier Giroud who's 36, where MLS sits there and puts a shot across somebody's bow and sits there. It's like, okay, fine,
a certain World Cup winner.
Yeah, tell you what, rock and roll, we'll play, and we're serious. And I think that, depending obviously on the circle that you're talking about, I think this can bode well for Major League Soccer down the line, because, hey, Sporting Kansas City said they were serious about Cristiano Ronaldo, but you can do the same thing with other teams for those players 28 to 32, or certain World Cup winners, or very, very handsome men who still can score in the right situations. MLS is setting themselves up, I think, as a player for these kinds of transactions down the line, with what they wanted to do and with the extent that Kansas City was looking to go to try to bring somebody in like that.
For sure. And I think, I can't claim to say that I haven't been in every stadium. I've been to a lot of them. I haven't been to every training ground, but you see the images and the pictures and videos. I mean, I think I think infrastructure wise, MLS has made leaps and bounds, right? So when you're one of these players, those are things that are very important to you, because obviously that's where you're going to work every day, right? So and you hear from teams too who come in, right? Like I remember going to a Manchester City training session up at NYCFC's training facility, and they were saying how great it was, right? Like how it was up to the same par as theirs. So you're getting that, and also you wonder maybe now this Apple TV deal where obviously in the US, in the North American market, you get that marketing cachet, right? That extra help there, but also now with the ability to go to 100 countries around the world, you can continue to showcase yourself as a marketing tool in all those different countries. So you wonder if that's now an added a bonus maybe for some of these guys.
Yeah, Jared, when you look at what Kansas City did, what Sporting did in trying to court Cristiano Ronaldo, and you see the newer general managers like a John Thorrington, since we talked about Aaron Long in LAFC and LAG in Toronto and all these different places, you have these markets that I think are willing to push the envelope in the future when it comes to transactions that are sizable transactions. And it's going to force Major League Soccer to do some thinking, even though they have this new TV deal and hopefully this new revenue, about maybe we need to expand the rules a little bit. We need to add that fourth DP. We need to get rid of the salary cap. I think that this kind of a thing from Sporting Kansas City might be forcing some thought in the glass tower in New York City.
Yeah, and this is something we've talked about for a while, that I've been hoping they would expand things out a bit. Give teams the options to spend more money. If someone wants to ball the hell out, let them ball the hell out. If someone wants to be more frugal and build from within, let them make that decision. But I like the change in the approach here, though. That as you're shifting, when we talked about like MLS moving out of the retirement league narrative, even though it was It's already had been making that move when it was one of those things where like the story was so far behind where it's like, oh, they're not a retirement. Like they haven't been for like 3 or 4 years. They've been bringing guys in. You can still get guys. You don't have to just target super young players. You can go get guys who are in their prime and guys who are not necessarily going to be the superstars, but who can come in and be a bigger fish, but give them that opportunity where they can come here and live a different life. Because you saw the article about it and we talked about it. Like, you roll into Kansas City, unless you're Patrick Mahomes, like you have that opportunity to kind of be chill, or you have the opportunity to kind of be out in front if you want to. It's a little easier to just live your life. It has to be appealing after a lifetime of everything you do is going to be on the back page of a tabloid.
And Dylan, as we continue to work this through, I guess we're workshopping the future of Major League Soccer here as we end your first Wednesdays with Dylan here in 2023. I'm a proponent of letting the reins go,
100%,
because we know that there are owners that will sit there and push the envelope. You want to be a global brand. There's ways to be a global brand, but one of those is being able to attract that kind of talent, and not necessarily while Sporting Kansas City did this fantastic three-dimensional approach to where that is an option. It is not the only thing that you can do to bring in this kind of a talent. Let it be a part of a package and an option plan, as opposed to the only way that things can happen.
Listen, we've said this on this show multiple times. I'm a big proponent of just going, luxury tax, right? Like set it at whatever you want it to be. And if you're willing to spend above that, then that's fine. But I think raising it, I think will then force the teams that are on the bottom to raise as well, right? Like, I think, and we said it too. I think before the last time we were on, I think before the New Year.
Mm-hmm.
You're approaching like 50 games in a year. You've got to increase your roster. You want to be a major player. You're getting the attention now of, as Jared said, not just these up and coming players, but also major global superstars. Doesn't have to be the NASL of the old days, right? But I think you're at a good spot financially as a league where go ahead, I think raise the limit, become a global player, and again, set the salary at whatever you want, but give teams the opportunity then to go over that and then pay the luxury tax.
And we all have seen the league grow to this point. Let me ask you this, and I'll let this be my last question, because I know that you've got to go, and we have to cut your promo for winter sports this week. How much of a concern is it for you with all of these games, with the addition of Leagues Cup, with MLS schedule, with US Open Cup? How concerned are you about injuries this year in Major League Soccer because of a Seattle going to Morocco and starting early, because of all of these tournaments? Are we going to have, sadly, another year where we could have some names and some big names and a lot of depth being taken out? How concerned are you about injuries this season with the current salary constraints and cap constraints and roster constraints that we have?
Yeah, I mean, that's not MLS exclusive, right? We're seeing that throughout the world. That was a big talking point, obviously, going into the World Cup, right? Like having a World Cup when it was, and really not having a break for players. And now players are coming back off the World Cup, also not getting a break. Now MLS, in that standpoint, is a little bit better situated than other leagues because it was that natural break because of the pushing up to the end of the season. But for sure, you're right. Like, there's going to be a lot of games to be played a lot of minutes taxing for guys, right? So I think managing, I think managing minutes is going to be a big talking point among technical staffs, right? Like figuring it out. Maybe a guy can go, 65 minutes on a Saturday, but only 25 on a Wednesday. Like, there's going to be a lot of and I think the teams that do that well, I think will obviously now not have to deal with the injuries as much. Now, other teams, Sporting as a good example, he rarely rotates his roster. He's going to have to do that this year.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So I think it's going to force a lot of coaches who are used to maybe the same 11 to really not subbing too many guys. I think it's going to force them out of their comfort zone, or you're going to have a lot of those guys that you would normally rely on the training table.
All right, so time
table, I should say.
No doubt. Well, hey, we'd like to be on the training table, especially because I haven't had breakfast yet. All right, so what's going on with Varsity Media, MLSsoccer.com, OSDB Sports? Hit me.
Yeah, getting back into it. First broadcast will be next Tuesday, coming back. So it's been a nice break in that sense as well. So high school game at St. Raymond's at St. Francis Prep, my alma mater. So that'll be fun. The OSDB wise, I think a lot of what we talked about today, I think I'll dive into a little bit on my next article. Just sort of what are the more who are the teams that are more most intriguing kind of going into the preseason, right? Like who do you keep an eye out for the most there? And MLS, we're continuing to there's a flurry. There's a January flurry of activity going on, so it's going to be busy.
Dylan_Butler, once again, my friend, thanks for coming on with us. Welcome back to 2023. Welcome back to Wednesdays with Dylan, and we will catch up with you next time, where you will bring more chaos. Apparently, everyone is sleeping in, and now it's all on fire, and so I give you all the credit. Be well, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. See you guys.
Be good. Dylan Butler hanging out with us as he always does on Wednesdays with Dylan with his Yankees mug, and he's ready to go. Okay, so Jarrett, let's see if we can recap the first hour of the show. So Marcelino Moreno looks like he is being looked at by Curitiba in Brazil. Tyler Wolff, his loan spell is ending early. And Emerson Heineman and Atlanta United have mutually agreed to part ways. So did I miss anything? Have I missed any updates since Dylan has been on for the last 30 minutes?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Ismail Tajuri-Shradi is leaving MLS, but I mean that feels like small potatoes compared to what we've been dealing with this morning.
I know. Where's Tajuri-Shradi going?
Man, I forgot. I've lost track of who's going where. It was Watford, by the way, that was linked with George Bello. Everything is happening. Everything is on fire. Everything is just chaos right now. That's fun.
This is fine. Yes.
Yeah, I want to see hey, y'all got any more of those moves? You gonna do it all at once? You're just gonna is this all of it, or I mean, don't stop now, baby. Let it all hang out. Let's go. Yeah. Get it all done at once.
Yeah.
I don't know if they will.
Well, okay.
And they might not be ready to announce it all. Also, Alan Franco hasn't been officially announced by the club. So there's that one coming too.
Yes. So, when Cesar Luis Merlo says, what he says when it's time, and he announces it, 3 years plus one more with an option, 80% of the pass. So Atlanta United hangs on to, and this is a purchase. So Atlanta hangs on to 20% of the pass for Alan Franco down the line. Ismail Tajuri-Shradi has signed with Ammonia out of Cyprus. So Ammonia Nicosia. And Cypriot First Division, year and a half. So that's where Ismail Tajuri-Shradi is going. 28 goals, 9 assists in his 90 matches, 49 starts, NYCFC, LAFC at the beginning of last year. So there's your Israel Tajuri-Shradi move on the day. So things are flying here in January, and it's going to be interesting, and so it's been a fun morning. So Tommy Scoops mentioned this time last night that it was an agreement in principle to sign Aaron Long per sources. Not done or finalized, but final stages. 30 years old, under contract. So you have that. Inter Miami and Seattle were the other two that came closest, but Aaron Long has chosen LAFC. LA Galaxy, we forgot about this one. LA Galaxy closing in on a deal to sign free agent center back Chris Mavinga, who probably just fell down again or got into another argument. Sorry, I'm getting him confused with Richie Larea. Mavinga, 31, 124 appearances with TFC, would reunite with Greg Vanney in LA, which makes a lot of sense. One of the top free agents, could be off the board, and he would be with LAG, as Aaron Long, it looks like, is heading to LAFC. So once again, Lipstick City, very, very busy.
It doesn't ever stop, apparently. We'll see if anything else comes out.
Mm-hmm. So that's where we are with Atlanta United this morning. Yesterday, when it comes to yesterday's action, briefly we'll get into what happened in the Premier League. Virgil van Dijk, his injury more serious than originally thought. He'll be out for a while. No timetable has been assigned to it, but
dude just cannot.
Nope.
Ever since the ACL, he's just. Bern and I were talking about on the Discord a couple of days ago. Like, he's not the same guy.
Mm-mm. No,
which sucks because he was so damn good when he was that guy, and he's just not that guy anymore.
No,
and him not staying healthy doesn't help that.
No, and so that came after the 3-1 loss to Brentford. Yesterday, Manchester United, Casemiro scoring for Manchester United against Bournemouth. Everybody is taking advantage of Bill Foley's new franchise, and Michael B. Jordan. Manchester United wins at 3-0 to -370. Arsenal and Newcastle, goalless draw. Mikel Arteta was hot after the match because he thought that there were 2 penalty calls that should have been given for Arsenal, and neither were. So he was pretty hot about it after the match. He's probably going to get an envelope from the Premier League offices, and he won't be looked upon very, very fondly by the PGMOL. Brighton was up 4-0 at one point over Everton yesterday. It was a 4-1 final at a +135. And as I said, right now, Wayne Rooney is your odds-on favorite to be the new manager at Everton when they decide to cut the cord on Frank Lampard. Everton loses 4-1. Fulham beats Leicester by the score of 1-0. Sorry, Knicks. 4 matches today. Villa hosting Wolves. Actually, let's go in time order. Southampton, bottom of the table, and this could be one of those relegation 6-pointers. Southampton is a home favorite at hosting Nottingham Forest. Southampton's at a +123. Leeds and West Ham at Carrow Road at 245. The juice boxes have pretty much thrown a blanket over this one. Both teams are at a +170. Crystal Palace and Spurs. Palace at Selhurst Park is a +263. Spurs are a +110. Antonio Conte is tired of telling the local media that he's trying to build something and that they will not be chasing championships. And Villa and Wolves is at 3 o'clock also. Villa's a +102 against Julian Lopetegui, who is 1-1 in his time at Wolves at a +301. So that's what you're staring at with your 4 matches in the Premier League. As festive fixtures continue, Jarrett, festive fixtures are a pain in the butt for more than one reason.
Yeah, they are. Hopefully no one gets too seriously hurt, like season-ending hurt.
Mm-hmm. So we've got that. Soccer on TV today, and there's a lot. Like I said, our friends at Paramount Plus are back with Serie A coverage. Hopefully we can catch up with the busiest person in show business, Poppy Miller, host of the Serie A coverage on CBS Sports Network and Paramount Plus. Your viewing habits, Turkish Super League is on at noon on both BN and BN Espanol. If you don't get that through your normal cable operators, you go to Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here, and you can pick it up. And if you have not subscribed to Fanatis, and you do, by using Soccer Down Here, fntz.co/soccer down here. You help us out here at the network as well. Doubleheader on a CBS Sports Network at 10:30 and 12:30. Roma, Bologna, Cremonese, Juve. Crystal Palace and Spurs is at 3. 6 matches in the Copa del Rey are on ESPN Plus starting at 1 o'clock. 3 at 1 o'clock, 1 at 2 o'clock with Atletico Madrid and Real Oviedo. Barcelona's on at 3 against Intercity. And we mentioned everything going on for the return of Serie A. 3, 6, 9, 10 matches going on Paramount Plus. Started at 6:30 this morning Eastern time. So they're in their 10:30 matches. So they're halfway through their schedule. Lecce, Lazio, Roma, Bologna started 10 minutes ago. 2 matches at 12:30, 2 at 2:45. Peacock has your other 3 matches, 2:30, 2:45, and 3. And so before we go, gossip, rumor, and innuendo from other worlds. And that's let's see what the papers are saying when it comes to everything. Jarrett, what else is on your mind this morning before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo?
I mean, literally, I was about to take my leave again, but yeah, just chaotic morning. Hey, we talked about, like, I didn't think it'd go this direction. We did mention that the transfer window just opened. The Alan Franco thing was one move of potentially many. Granted,
Yes.
when I said that, I didn't realize I was grabbing the monkey's paw and saying, they'll be able to make more moves. I didn't think almost all those moves would be outbound, except for Tyler Wolf allegedly coming back.
Yes.
Teach me to grab the monkey's paw. Good God.
So Jarrett grabbed the monkey's paw, and that's where we are with everything going on here with Atlanta United. Very, very busy morning for Atlanta United. And hey, training camp just literally started, or it hasn't even started. We're in the
about to start.
Yeah, we're in the January window, and so sure enough, we get 3 moves on one day. So so we will catch back up with you again tomorrow for Thursday Thoughts. Yes?
Hopefully that's the plan. We'll
Yes.
see.
All right.
And Mara's going to be drunk again, I'm sure.
Yes. And so we'll keep an eye on that and all that other stuff. So we'll catch up with you again tomorrow. Thank you, Jarrett. Claudio Ranieri has returned to coaching in Serie B. Fox has picked up the France Cup from beIN Sports to add to their properties. They're not into league stuff. They're now into properties. And so getting the French Cup was a big pickup for them. Ligue 1 rights are probably going to be part of the discussion as well coming up down the line. Sarah Fuller retired from competitive soccer. Her last season was with Minnesota Aurora in USLW. And they made it all the way to the last game of the year before losing to South Georgia Tormenta in the USLW championship. So we've got that news, but let's go into the gossip, rumor, and innuendo around the planet. And Chelsea set to make a last-ditch effort to hijack Arsenal's January bid for Mykhailo Mudryk, despite the Gunners having already agreed to personal terms. That comes from the 3-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. Chelsea reluctant to meet the €120 million release clause in Enzo Fernandez's contract with Benfica, who want the fee paid in full to agree to the move. Hey, you want Enzo Fernandez? Benfica pretty much can sit there and take the terms, and I bet you somebody jumps on him. The club spent Tuesday night locked in negotiations, but still have not reached an agreement on the key details of Fernandez's move. Will continue talks today. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Memphis has been linked with a return to Manchester United, but Barcelona boss Xavi wants the 28-year-old to stay at the new camp. Manchester United could still sell Aaron Wan-Bissaka in January despite his recent showings. Spurs are to hold talks with Sporting Lisbon on today over potential deals for Spain right back Pedro Porro and 24-year-old English midfielder Marcus Edwards. That comes from the 4-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. Newcastle United have ended their pursuit of Marcus Thuram. Eddie Howe is prioritizing other positions, according to Football Insider. Bayern Munich, Newcastle, PSG, Liverpool set to compete for the signature of Manu Kone at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Speaking of PSG, Lionel Messi returned to training today and got a champion's cordon. He got a champion's walkout at training camp today. Brentford close to signing German forward Kevin Schad for £22 million from Freiburg after he passed a medical. Brentford's 21-year-old Scottish forward Aaron Presley has agreed to a deal to join Accrington Stanley on loan. And in the lower divisions currently, Trying to see where the Ackies are. Let me see if they are at the top of they are at the bottom of League One right now and need a lot of help. They're a part of the relegation scrap at the bottom in League One, 22 points, minus 17 in goal difference. They're at the halfway point of their schedule, and you have 6 teams separated by 4 points at the bottom of the League One table. Cambridge United at 24 points. Accrington Stanley out on goal difference. Burton Albion in 25 matches have given up 50 goals. They're at minus 18 compared to minus 17, and that's why they're in the relegation zone. Morecambe and MK Dons and Forest Green Rovers are at the bottom of League One, so that's where League One is right now. Accrington Stanley getting some help from Brentford. Chelsea, Newcastle, Bayern interested in Ilan Melier, but Leeds do not want to sell. Leicester City manager Brendan Rodgers still hoping the club can agree to a new deal with Yuri Tielemans, who'll be out of contract with the summer. Even if they do sign him to a new deal, that's to protect them so they don't get basically zero in return for Yuri Tielemans. Arsenal ready to sell Portugal right back Cedric Suarez, but a move to Fulham is being held up by the 31-year-old's wage demands. Borough are in talks to sign Aston Villa 21-year-old English striker Cameron Archer on loan for the rest of the year. Southampton close to agreeing to a £7.5 million deal for Dinamo Zagreb and Croat midfielder Miroslav Orsic. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Everton's English defender Michael Keane would be interested in a move to West Ham in January. Southampton also set to make a move for Racing Club's Argentine midfielder Carlos Alcaraz in an attempt to bolster their Premier League survival hopes this year. Manchester City planning to reward England U19 defender Rico Lewis, who we've seen get a cup of coffee recently in the Premier League. They're going to hopefully give him a new contract, so we'll keep an eye on that. And Brazil defender Marquinhos set to sign a contract extension with PSG, courtesy of our friends at La Parisienne. David Wagner is now the new head coach at Norwich. He was part of 4 folks that were right there as a part of the finalists, and it looks like David Wagner has a verbal agreement with Norwich City to become their new head coach. Contracts yet to be signed. Should be in place to take charge of the team first time on Sunday when Norwich host Blackburn in the FA Cup third round. Former Schalke boss available immediately, having been sacked by Young Boys in Switzerland back in March, despite the team sitting second in the Swiss Super League. And Sky Sports News has been told Norwich interviewed 4 candidates for the role following the sacking of Dean Smith last month. Wagner's experience in getting Huddersfield Town promoted from the Championship, keeping them in the Prem, was a key factor in his favor. Wagner also knows Norwich's sporting director Stuart Webber well. They worked for 2 years at Huddersfield when they won promotion. And so that's what you're looking at with the David Wagner. So David Wagner to Norwich. And also on the board looking into the transfer center and the papers before we go. David De Gea says he wants to finish his career at Manchester United with Jack Butland on the radar. Real Madrid increasingly confident of signing Borussia Dortmund's Jude Bellingham this summer, according to The Independent. The report claims the European champs are pitching the club to the 19-year-old as the best place for young talent in Europe. Keep an eye on that. Expected to leave the German club this summer. Every top European side interested in signing him, including Liverpool. Phraseology from Sky. Hibs defender Ryan Porteous has been the subject of a rejected bid from Udinese. Porteous is out of contract in the summer, set to leave Easter Road. Talks remain ongoing between Hibs and Udinese. Newcastle remain in talks with Real Valladolid over the signing of right back Ivan Fresneda. The market for a young right back, and the 18-year-old fits the profile. Flattered by the interest, open to a move to St. James Park. Newcastle officials scouted him several times, including against Real Madrid on Friday. They see the recruitment in that position to be someone who can learn from Kieran Trippier, eventually become a key player in the team. Fresneda's contract is up in 2025. They're also keeping an eye, meaning Newcastle, on Harrison Ashby's situation at West Ham. Ashby's contract is up in the summer. Luis Suarez got a warm welcome as he arrived in Porto Alegre to join Brazilian side Grêmio, signed a contract there a couple days ago. Ukraine midfielder Ruslan Malinovsky wants to move to the Premier League this month, being followed by Premier League teams, but showing the strongest interest now is Marseille. Atalanta will not sell him easily, value him more at 15 million euro, 13 million pounds. Spurs sporting director Fabio Paratici is said to be among his admirers. Spurs looked into bringing him on loan back in the summer. Atalanta only wants to sell him permanently. Spurs are reluctant to spend fees on players who are 30 and above. Malinowski turns 30 in May. Southampton also in talks with French side Lorient over the signing of striker Tara Moffi. One source says there's cautious optimism. A deal can be agreed for the 23-year-old in the next few days. The Nigerian international has scored 10 league goals in 15 starts this season. Into the final 18 months of his contract with Lorient, also thought to have been watched by West Ham. Graham Potter does not want to field transfer rumors by commenting on reported targets. So when he's asked about Enzo Fernandez and Mykhailo Mudryk, he's not going to be drawn into it. He was asked, and he said, it's a good question, but the problem is if I answer it, and I'm specific in that answer, every single player in that area will be linked to Chelsea, so I have to dodge it. I hope you can understand why I'm dodging it. Well done, Graham Potter. Everton, Crystal Palace, and 2 Bundesliga clubs are interested in Middlesbrough striker Chuba Akpom. Championship's top scorer, 13 goals so far this season. Contract is up in the summer, but there's an option for a further year. Middlesbrough want him to stay beyond the current end of the contract. And so Kevin Schad was signed on loan, 12 appearances, scoring twice. And the question is, can Arsenal afford Mykhailo Mudryk and Joao Felix in January? Remember, Atletico wants everything up front. They want the 21 million to take care of Joao Felix up front, and then they'll start talking. Morgan Rogers reunited with Michael Appleton in the lower divisions, joining Blackpool on loan for Manchester City until the end of the season. And according to Fernando Callas, we mentioned Joao Felix, and he says Jorge Mendes spent the entire night trying to negotiate because Felix doesn't want to play in Madrid anymore. The relationship between him and Simeone is broken, and there's an exodus of Atletico Madrid players who want to get out of Simeone's control. The thing is, Atletico paid a lot of money for Felix, so they want something in return. So we're talking about £15 million until the end of the season for 6 months. It's a lot of money. That is absolutely true. Giroud and Kolomouani are on the radar for rumors for Manchester United as well. So if we go into the papers, apparently, and like I said, once again, we're going to avoid 3 and 4 letter. We're going to avoid 3 and 4 letter discussions when it comes to those particular papers. So we're going to have to skip through that stuff. Leicester have expressed an interest, according to The Guardian, in signing Martin Dubravka after Newcastle terminated the goalkeeper's loan move to Manchester United early. Daily Mirror says Cristiano Ronaldo is reportedly set to end his working relationship with agent Jorge Mendes, who's represented him throughout his career, continuing to distance himself from Mendes following the move to Al Nassr. Manchester United have reportedly reached out over a potential move for Olivier Giroud. And The Athletic, on loan Norwich City midfielder Isaac Hayden has spoken out about his soul-destroying knee injury after undergoing fresh surgery. Gareth Southgate, according to The Times, will conduct an extensive review of his staff and England's performance at the World Cup as he begins to turn his attention to next year's European Championships in Germany. And we talked about West Brom, and this is according to The Times. West Brom are in a precarious financial state, with their Chinese owner having taken out a £20 million high-interest loan, and that was from Michael Dell's group, within days of missing a deadline to repay money he had borrowed for one of his companies. And so that's what you're staring at with West Brom right now, the current ownership taking money from Peter to pay Paul. And let me see before we go if there's any other details that we haven't talked about. And so let's see if there's any other news that's attached to it, considering what we've seen from the Times. So I might have to do it this way, and I know this makes for incredible live radio and for everything going on. Let's see. So there's all right. So there, we're going to sport, going to the Times, and Let's see. Van Dijk set for a large injury absence. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's out there. So not at the moment. It doesn't. I mean, so we know the basics of what's going on at West Brom, and it's a very, very dangerous situation there with their finances. We showed you where they are in the standings, but once again, we'll recap where West Brom is in the standings currently. With Daryl Dike in the lineup, they've really caught fire recently. They've won 4 of 5. They're at 38 points. But remember, you have, let's just say, 5-point difference. 5-point difference from 4th to 15th. And to get into the playoffs, let's go down one further spot. So from 5th to 16th, it's 6 points. West Brom's right in the heat of that. 10-8-8. They've won 4 of 5, 3 in a row. And, Daryl Dike's been very healthy, but West Brom right there in that madness that's going on in the championship. So we'll keep an eye on that. But, yeah, West Brom, a precarious financial state with their current ownership situation. Daily Express, Spurs have reportedly been interfering with Leicester City's proposed deal to sign Azzedine Ounahi as the race to capture the star heats up. Reading are trying to sign Newcastle's wonder kid forward Garang Kuhl, 18 on loan after he's shown for Australia at the World Cup. And like I said, we mentioned that Wayne Rooney is the odds-on favorite to take over from Frank Lampard at Everton. Daily Record, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors are considering Celtic's offer for South Korean striker Cho Gwae-sung, although they claim the offer is less than what they expected. And Celtic are set to raise major concerns over the SFA's handling of VAR after the Connor Goldston Old Firm Flashpoint became the latest video nasty for the Hoops. So we'll talk to Jared about that tomorrow. Rangers will not be signing defensive target Deion Sanderson, according to Birmingham City boss John Eustace. Lee Johnson's job as Hibs boss is safe for now, but results must improve at Easter Road for that to stay the case, and Johnston stunned his Hibs players by snubbing them after their 3-0 derby defeat to rivals Hearts. So, so I got that going for him. Yeah, and I think you're right, Bern. I think that DK was made for the championship, and I think that's the right. I think that's the right spot. I think it is, and you're spot on. Few players fit their league as well as he does. But yeah, so West Brom is in a difficult financial spot. We'll keep an eye on that, and they are in a difficult spot in the table, even though they've won 4 of 5. So we'll keep an eye on that. Go through the rest of the grid today with today's matches. We talked about what's on the telly, and we got stuff going on right now. As always, it's we have the Serie A games. Lazio leading Lecce 1-0 in the 26th. Roma leading Bologna 1-0 in the 28th. You've got the juniors Copa del Sao Paulo going on in Brazil. It is Middle East. It is North Africa. Super League doubleheader at noon. We talked about that. You can find on BN. Serie A at 12:30. Juve's a -127. Fiorentina's a -143 at home against Monza. Greek Super League is going on. PAOK and Aris at 1 o'clock. Copa del Rey. Real Sociedad a big favorite. Mallorca a favorite. Sevilla a big favorite. No surprises there. Real Oviedo is an underdog with Atletico Madrid at a -217. Southampton still a +124 as Forest visits. Leeds and West Ham still within +10 in the margin of error. Serie A, Inter is a favorite on the plus side, hosting Napoli. Udinese is on the minus side at a -149, hosting Empoli. Villa's a +102, hosting Wolves. Spurs a +110 at Crystal Palace. Copa del Rey, Alaves and Valladolid pretty much within the margin of error. So Juice Boxers threw a blanket over that one. Barcelona -1250 against CF Intercity. Liga de Expansión and Liga MX at 6:05. Celaya and Cancun. And they're back at it as well at 8:05 and 10:05. Atletico La Paz and Zacatecas Mineros, and Venados a -108 against Tepatitlan de Morelos. So that is your day. Busy day. What did you have to go with today? And we had a busy day. So to recap, Marcelino Moreno looks like Coritiba has an interest in Marcelino, and Emerson Heinemann at Land United have agreed to mutually part ways. Tyler Wolff has been recalled from his loan at SK Beveren, only featuring in 7 matches for a handful of minutes for the Belgian side. So busy day for Atlanta United. And a busy day in Major League Soccer. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to Dylan Butler for coming on for his normal Wednesday visit, as he always does. We'll be back at it tomorrow. And Thursday thoughts once again. We'll get into, as we get closer and closer to training camp, we'll get into, once again, written in pen or pencil. We'll get written into pencil all of your way too early predictions and resolutions, things like that. So very, very busy morning. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us. And we will catch back up with you tomorrow. So for Jarrett, for Nick, for Jason, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy your day. Stay dry. Stay warm. Stay safe, so we can all go back and do this again tomorrow. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John Muchaplati. I'll play it safe. We will catch up with you tomorrow. And since the end of the show, it means I get to do this. We'll catch up with you at 9:05 tomorrow morning.